And joining me on the show tonight, Lokesh Suji. He is a esports evangelist, director of Esports Federation of India. We also have Badri Narayanan, executive partner at LKS. This is the firm that is handling the online gaming case in the Supreme Court. Let me begin with you, Badri. Does an outright ban risk pushing online gaming into the illegal and unregulated space, making it perhaps even harder to monitor and control?
I think so. I think pushing an absolute ban in a manner which is so sudden, the risk of it going underground, and especially if people feel that they can, as you put it, in borderless internet, the chances of being able to find places or the proliferation of illegal apps, which now will prey on innocent people and take it underground. I think there's a real risk, and it's a big worry for many of us.
But Lokesh, if we look at the intent of the government, Badri, you take this question only. If you look at the intent of the government, it's well-being.
Sure.
The intent is to safeguard, to protect vulnerable sections of the society. The fact is that there are, a kind of addiction which is happening. There are financial losses which people are suffering. So that's also a reality of this online gaming.
See, I think you put it in a way where it's difficult to argue against a point like this. But I'll give another example. I'm sure this issue plagues not only India but other countries. If you take, for example, the UK, they have a UK Gaming Act which regulates online gaming. There's an Internet Gaming Act in the US. Australia has a robust legislative policy on how it is. And you must see how the society also develops over a period of time. Okay. At one point of time, we did not have alcohol because alcohol was prohibited completely. Now we have only 4 states prohibiting alcohol, and we know how some of those things are enforced. So the way you clamp down as society kind of progresses is not by instituting absolute bans, but kind of being able to come up with rational means of being able to regulate this so that people are able to enjoy this in a responsible manner while removing whatever possibilities there could be with respect to these harms that the society perceives from these games. So that's where I would probably want to move towards. So there are many countries that regulate this in a very responsible manner. And there is rich data of more than 100 years in some of these countries, right from the US Constitution. If you see, you look at the UK Gaming Act, it's been there from 1845 onwards. Now in 2005, they've reformed it. And so the people have used and countries have come up with ways of being able to handle this in a very responsible manner.
Okay, Lokesh, could this bill then end up stifling innovation and investment in India's growing gaming industry, where legitimate companies are creating jobs and also tax revenues?
Yeah, honestly, there is no doubt that when you look at the overall revenues from the gaming market in India, the major chunk of revenues were effectively coming in from all these RMG apps. And but one problem which I specifically see there is that this was also one of the hindrance that the actual video gaming or the esports industry was not able to grow because as an investor you would always look at high returns and faster returns. And whereas a video game or making a video game is just like making a movie. It may with, let's say, whatever investments you make in making a movie, and similarly, whatever investments you do in making a video game, its success is not guaranteed. Whereas when we look at RMG, obviously, whatever having said in them, the revenues and the profitability starts kicking in from day one. So I think, and that is where, while obviously, and that is also one very important factor to consider that rest of the world does not consider, the RMG revenues as part of the video gaming revenues. Rest of the world considers this under the category of iGaming, and which really impacts, the actual video gaming industry. And that is the reason why when we today look at, most of the actual video games which our Indian, youngsters are playing, they are being developed by multinational companies. We hardly play, the games which are being developed in India. So that is, I think this bill will definitely encourage those kind of investments coming into, let's say, the video games and the esports sector. So that clarity has been brought up with this bill, and that's a great thing.
Okay. Lokesh, then what happens to, this sector was also seen as unregulated. Do you think this bill will ensure that it becomes easy to monitor, or will it make it even harder to monitor and control?
See, that's a good question. Very honestly, I think these are good battles to fight for, and this initiative was something which was long due. And obviously, our government took some time to kind of bring in this clarity. But see, I think we should definitely look at this bill from an overall perspective. That it's a good initiative. Challenges will always be there, and as you also rightly said, that it's an open internet, right? It's an open world.
Yes.
So the difficulties would be there. But having said so, while it is technology oriented, there are a lot of technology oriented tools also available wherein all those things can be easily controlled. Now, take for example, this bill also proposes that if you like obviously, I hear a lot just that, all these things will move offshore and, it will lead into another set of, underground kind of activities. But the reality is that for somebody to make a payment, you definitely need a payment gateway. Now, this bill also provision that if you are enabling as a bank or as a payment gateway provider, if you are enabling these kind of services, then obviously you will equally be penalized. So this means that large, and obviously for you to do an international transaction, obviously the Indian banks, your credit cards, your online UPIs and everything won't work. Now, if you have to, let's say, I'm just looking at an, example that let's say there is some international site who's, let's say, operating and they're, let's say, promoting in India, whichever ways and means and mechanism.
Yeah.
But for some user, that user needs to have that kind of a tool wherein he can make that kind of a payment. And that is where typically, let's say international, you look at, let's say, Stripe or, all these kind of things. And that is Stripe, companies like Stripe are not small time payment gateway providers. They would not get into, illegal thing in a country. So
Okay.
they would eventually also stop.
All
So there
right.
are means and mechanisms wherein all those things can be controlled.
All right, Badri and Lokesh, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Of course, the bill has been passed by the Rajya Sabha, although a massive lobbying which is happening from the other side, from the industry as well.